laki-laki. Bahkan saat demo pun, perempuan hanya menjadi
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Day 2 of the Women Peacebuilders Forum 2025. The theme of our conference is Mainstreaming Women Peace and Security in Preventing Violent Extremism, Indonesia's Good Practices and Remaining Gaps. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly ensure your Zoom display name follows the format name dash institution. I repeat again, name dash institution. Please stay muted unless invited to speak, and feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box. The simultaneous interpretations feature is available. You may access Bahasa and English interpretation by pressing the globe icon on your Zoom screen. If you need any assistance, don't hesitate to reach out to our committee. Ladies and gentlemen, our conference will begin very soon. Excellencies, honorable speakers, moderators, distinguished guests, esteemed participants, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon, evening, and morning to everyone, and welcome to Day 2 of Women Peacebuilders Forum 2025, organized by the Asian Muslim Action Network, AMAN Indonesia, with the generous support of UN Women Indonesia. Again, thank you very much for your attention. We are exploring best practices and protection of victims of terrorism with a gender-sensitive lens. Today, the agenda will begin with panel session 3, entitled Resilient Communities, Safer Future, Women's Leadership in Preventing Radicalization. And this will be followed by panel session 4, titled Reclaiming Civic Space, Civil Society Role in Building Peace and Preventing Violent Extremism. Later in the day, we will hear a special synthesis at the closing panel entitled From Lesson to Action, Regional Reflection, and Next Step, delivered by Mrs. Yunianti Khuzaifah, the Executive Board of AMAN Indonesia, and the former National Commission on Anti-Violence Against a Woman or Komnas Perempuan. Ladies and gentlemen, we shall now proceed to the panel session 3. It is my honor to invite our moderator, Professor Dr. Atun Wardatun, Professor of Islamic Family Law at the State Islamic University of Mataram, and founding directors of Larimpu. Professor Atun, the screen is now yours.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, evening, and night for everyone, the participant for our Women Peacebuilders Forum. Today, our second day, and this session will present 3 speakers. This session aims to highlight the critical role of women's leadership in building resilient communities and preventing radicalization through inclusive, locally rooted initiatives. Drawing on practical experiences from Indonesia, including faith-based approaches, grassroots peace village models, and school-based intervention, Decision will explore how women-led efforts contribute to sustainable peace and social cohesion. Through reflective dialogue, the session will identify strategies for scaling these models and strengthening community-based prevention. So our speakers today are 3 prominent figures in Indonesia. The first one will be Dr. Camelia Hamidah. She is the director of the Center for Peace Promotion at Institut Pesantren Matoliul Falah in Pati, Central Java, Indonesia, where she leads program on peace building, intercultural dialogue, and community development. Her research and publications explore topics including women-centered faith-based community organizing, identity politics in Indonesia, and Islamic moderation, integrating gender, religion, and social transformation in her scholarship. And the second one is, the one and only Ibu Dwi Rubianti Khalifah. With AMAN Indonesia, she initiated the Women's School of Peace, a peace learning community for interfaith mothers, which now operates in 43 communities across 7 provinces. The school aims to strengthen women's leadership and organizational skills to enhance their contribution to peace building. And the last one will be, last but not least, actually, will be Ibu Siti Holisah. She is the Senior Program Officer and Acting Executive Director at the Wahid Foundation, where she leads the Sekolah Damai Peace Schools initiative. Launched in 2016, the program uses a participatory approach to integrate peace, tolerance, and inclusive values into school policies, teaching practices, and student activities targeting intolerance and extremism in education. Siti emphasized strengthening school policy frameworks in class tolerance, education, and inclusive student-led organizational culture. The program's success has led to official provincial regulation backing in Central Java and ongoing LMS-based teacher training. And also, we are going to have 2 discussions today. She is Visaka Dharmadasa, the founder and chair of Association of War-Affected Women and Parents of Servicemen Missing in Action confirmed. Visaka Dharmadasa is a Sri Lankan peace activist and founder of the Association of War-Affected Women, or AWAW. She became a leading voice for peace after her son, a soldier, went missing in action during the Civil War. Sorry for that, Visaka. Visaka has since worked extensively to promote women's leadership in peace building, facilitated dialogue between conflicting parties, and advocate for the inclusion of women in security and disarmament process. And the second discussion is Aminah Rasul, Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy. Dr. Aminah Tilah Rasul Bernardo is a Filipino Muslim rights advocate, former chair of the National Youth Commission for Mindanao, and a longtime champion for peace and gender justice. She founded and co-led organizations like Women in International Security and Muslim Women Peace Advocates, and currently serves as president of the Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy. Okay, welcome to our 3 speakers, and the first one will be Ibu Kamilia Hamidah, representative of KUPI, and now floor is yours. Only 10 minutes for each speaker. Ibu Kamila? Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ibu Atun. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, friends and colleagues and honorable distinguished guests. So today, it is an honor for me to be a representative of the Indonesian Ulama Women Congress, and actually, recently we just also sharing this initiative to Kenya, to Nairobi, and once again, thank you for AMAN Indonesia and UN Women for conducting this very good forum. So since my presentation would be in 10 minutes, so I will be very quickly wrap the main point of what COPI has been initiated. It was in since 2017, the first Congress, and I will be sharing insight on how women religious leaders in Indonesia are countering violence extremism by developing inclusive, compassionate religious narrative grounded in lived realities, Islamic scholarship, and also community peace building. So I will start with the prominent scholars. So she is I admire most, Ibu Nyai Badriah Fayumi. So this is only one figure within KUPI. We used to call it KUPI. So this is only one figure, and she was born in 1971 into pesantren families and studied Islam in depth in various institutions, including Al-Azhar University in Cairo. And her scholarship and activism have played a key role in shaping how KUPI's vision, especially its commitment to justice, gender equality, and also peace through Islamic values. So if you see that this is one example, and we have many more. We have many in KUPI, we have many more, including Professor Atun Wardatun also among us. So please next slide. And when we discuss about KUPI, so Indonesian Women Ulama Congress, KUPI is the first Congress of Muslim women ulama in Indonesia, maybe perhaps in the Muslim world. So it was established to recognize and amplify the role of women ulama in Islamic thought and public life. Rather than being reactive, KUPI is proactive. So this is the different. Proactive in producing religious response to urgent issue like violence, extremism, and gender injustice, which is grounded in Islamic tradition and social reality. If you see, the vision is compassion, rahmatan lil alamin, a noble character, ahlakul karimah, and the purpose is also advocating gender justice within an Islamic framework. So at the heart of the KUPI's work, there are 9 core values which guide both in religious reasoning and also in community organizing. So not only like a gathering, but these values become the spirit of organizing us as well. And these values upholding human dignity, rejecting all form of violence, preserving life and the environment, and honoring women's leadership in religion and society. And these are not just an abstract idea. So if you see, there is tauhid, monotheism, rahmah, compassion, maslahah, musawah, equality, mubadalah, reciprocity. Adalah means justice, watonia nationality, insaniah means humanity, and kauniyah means universality. So this is not just an abstract, but it is like the spirit on every initiative and every advocacy work which done by the by KUPIs and all the network within the KUPI communities. So the live principle applied through education, advocacy, and also in religious discourse. And next slide. I will just jump into the methodology of KUPI Fatwa. In KUPI, the first Congress and also the second Congress, there were religious deliberation. So there are basically 5 main components, the way how to build this fatwa. So the fatwa making process, the process is rooted in Islamic tradition, where it combines 5 component Islamic text, the conceptualization, tasawwur, is understanding the real life problem. So if you see, I will just show you later in Q&A. and Adillah textual references synthesizing from Quran, Hadith, and scholarly opinion, and not only not only based on the textual references, but also from the Indonesian Constitution, also from and scholarly opinion. Istidlal, the reasoning applying principle of maqasid in real world issue, and then in a way that it's then it builds from this from the Tasawwur, Adillah, and also Istidlal. It's built become the foundation in building the religious deliberation, and from there we copy draw a recommendation. So next slide. Women peace building, confronting religious violence in Indonesian context. I may discuss about the one of the fatwa relating into the inclusion of women in preventing of religious extremism. So we see that in Indonesia, women are often the first to detect signs of social unrest or radicalization, especially within families and communities. Despite limited recognition, however, women has long acted as informal peace builder, mediators, and caregiver during the time of crisis. So we see that the gender reality of religious extremism, sometimes women caught in extremism web, like previously has been in introduction in 2018, in 2019, there are several women who are within the network of extremism. And there are fourfold vulnerability framework for women peace builder to address that women instead of vulnerable or exposed or affected of perpetrator. So in this fourfold vulnerability framework is how the religious deliberation is built, and also integrating women peace builder unique position. At the same time, women also pose the unique position in peace building activities, be it like as a cultural gatekeepers, community connector, and also narrative change. So this is actually at the same time there are fourfold vulnerability framework for women, but also women also as an active peace builder. So Kupi try to amplify this role by positioning women ulama not only as religious authorities, but also as a front line of peace actor. So next slide. One of the Kupi most impactful innovation or initiative in the formal recognition of women religious leader as agent of change, breaking the religious authority monopoly. Yeah, so the theological legitimacy through women scholarship. There is a female ulama providing authoritative religious interpretation. This is based on this religious deliberation, in which it's challenging patriarchal reading that may fuel extremism, and also creating safe space for questioning religious radical narrative. And also within a grassroots peace building strategies, it delves into community embedded activism, working within the existing pengajian or community-based religious studies circle, and transforming traditional women religious gathering into a peace laboratory, and also building resilience against extremist recruiter at family level. Because woman is at the forefront and the front line in recognizing the early warning whether among their family is affected by this network or not, and also addressing root causes through women's lens, intersection analysis, extremism, recognizing, like, for example, the economic vulnerability as radicalization pathway, also understanding domestic violence, extremism connection, and challenging narrative of religious honor. We will discuss this in detail in Q&A. And next, and the question is, how could we empower women peace builder? First of all, it's through religious authority reconstruction, the fatwa legitimacy building, women issuing religious ruling on peace and tolerance, creating theological framework for women's public religious life, and also establishing women's ijtihad independent religious reasoning as valid. This is important because in Indonesia, religious fatwa is shaping how the society is working in their daily life. So sometimes it can fuel into an extremism. That's why it tried to build religious authority reconstruction by fatwa legitimacy building and also capacity building for women activists, a multi-level training approach, theological education for credible counter narratives, community organizing skill for sustainable impact, and also digital literacy for online peace building campaigns, and also network mobilization, horizontal solidarity building, connecting local women with peace builder nationally, and sharing successful intervention model across region, and also creating mutual support system for activist sustainability. So when we say empowerment here mean access, so it means not only religious platform, but also decision-making space in community and national context. So it's not only in community level, but building network into a larger community. Please, next slide. So when we say about ulama, sometimes
Sorry, just to remind you that you have 1 minute left.
Okay. So
Okay.
okay,
Sorry.
thank you for reminding. So women ulama often face systemic barrier, patriarchy in religious institution, and also legal restriction and social stigma. And KUPI takes an activist approach, not just a theological, but structural, mobilizing network, engaging media, and also influencing state and religious institution. And it's about transforming not only narrative, but also the system that allow violence and extremism to persist. Next, so we can skip lesson from KUPI to the 11th slide. So when we can reflect on peace, we must recognize that women often bear the heaviest burden in the time on conflict. So please go to slide 12 and 13. If you see that this is the result of the religious deliberation of the first Indonesian woman ulama, it is about religious discussion on sexual violence, and now it has been passed in Indonesian government, and also religious deliberation of child marriage, and also religious devotional and destruction. And the second Indonesia Women's Ulama Congress is also for the next slide, marginalization of women in protecting the Republic of Indonesia from the danger of violence in the name of religion, about waste management, protecting women from the danger of forced marriage. And we can come to the 14 directly. So I want to have a closing remark here that when we say peace is not merely only an absence of violence, but presence of justice, dignity, and wholeness of every aspect of life. When peace is threatened in any kind of form, it is often women, mother, caregivers, educators, and leaders who carry the greatest burden, yet also possess the deepest insight into preventing harm. And KUPI demonstrate that women religious scholars not only capable of shaping religious discourse, but they are essential to it, offering a theology that heals, protects, and uplifts. And we need to go together, and because when women lead with faith and wisdom, peace become not just a hope but live a reality. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bu Atun.
Okay, thank you so much for Mrs. or Ibu Camelia. I think it was very rich sharing session, sharing experience, and we know that women through KUPI using inclusive interpretation and related to social life, they can produce many fatwas. And maybe in Indonesia, we already got recognition, public recognition, especially particularly among NU movement. But, maybe many people still questioning how this KUPI will become a good exemplar for national, or not only for national, but also for international movement on women ulama. So maybe next agenda will be how to make KUPI as one of international initiative for women's movement using inclusive interpretation of Al-Quran. And how, what do you say about this? I know some of KUPI's representative already went to many countries to introduce this, but maybe you can share some plans about KUPI for the next agenda in making this as a good exemplar for international movement.
So we can we will discuss this
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Prof.
Yeah.
Atun, for raising this this question. Yes, indeed, we're still struggling. KUPI is still struggling now in terms of recognition, because if we know that religious domain is commonly male domain. So so grabbing the authority is still struggling, now, and anyway, but the good example of the KUPI initiative in building a network, and also the movement of women movement, we share to different forum, and also socializing the religious deliberation, because as I mentioned earlier, then when we say peace, is not only related to physical conflict, but any possible injustice or any possible structural what we call it, structural violence within a society, it can lead into conflict. So in building a network, and also how the religious deliberation become a moral foundation in people doing good, in people doing movement, because in Indonesia, in various, I think we know together that religion in Indonesian society is very important. So whenever the religious say like this, so it's become, like the foundation. For example, within Indonesian society, I mean, commonly people know that wife should have obedience to their husband. But sometimes we say that to some extent, the obedience to husband is sometimes translated into like a total obedience. We can imagine when this husband is within a network of extremism.
Yeah.
So obviously, it is put his wife into into a vulnerable place, because if wife is not agree with the husband, she is considered as not as a pious woman. So this is sometimes we need to we need to advocate this, and also we need to share the story about, we need to reinterpret the religious narrative which uplift the woman as a peace builder activist.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Camelia. Now, from KUPI's experience, we talk about religion, religious interpretation. We will see how the initiative for sustainable peace and security, including the women's actor as the main actor for this sustainability. We will welcome Ibu Dewi Riubianti Khalifah, the Director of AMAN Indonesia, for the next speaker. Again, 10 minutes for you, Ibu Ruby.
Okay, so reminding me if I am go too far, more than 10 minutes. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening. I'm very pleased to be part of this panel. Today, I am interested to explore our new initiative after our long journey at the national level. We feel that it is important to install the women peace and security at the village level. So we call it Sustainable Peace Village. It is the initiative where AMAN, as the network, we would like to ensure that the women peace and security agenda is actually adopted as well at the village level. So for those of you who are very new with AMAN, we work with more than 300 organizations across provinces, district, and as well as villages, including we are also active, engaged with the international advocacy. So AMAN have been working closely at the village level in operating the program, what we call Women's School of Peace, is actually a learning space for the women from interfaith background to exchange their experiences and learning the new knowledge so that they able to actually playing vital role in transforming the village. So we are very proud to see that in the last several years, we have a lot of strong figures at the village level from interfaith background that actually been evident to really transform the situation at the village level using peace building approach. If you would like to know more, you can go to the YouTube called She Build Peace Indonesia, and then feel free, you can use the story to your presentation or promote to other people, or even copy or modify the model. So, however, we are also facing very serious issues. Number one, I think, as the Indonesia applying democracy, we found that we are not happy to see the participation of women still hasn't reached 30% as we expected. So the women political participation is still very low, and particularly if you see at the local level, we only have like 15 to 18% of the women participation in parliament. It seems still far away in achieving 30%. The other that we are very concerned is actually the entrenchment of clientelistic politics. Refers to a system of the political exchange in which politician or elite provide material benefits such as money, goods, job, or preferential access services in return for political votes. And it is not just about a sign of political backwards, but it is often a rational choice for both politicians and also voters in the setting when public goods are unevenly delivered, poverty and inequality are high, and voters doubt that programmatic promises will be fulfilled. And others we also seeing on the ground is the growing of a policing of piety. It refers to the social or institutional enforcement or specific religious behavior and appearance, often through judgment, correction, or coercion, especially targeting women. We found on the media that mandatory hijab in public schools still going on in several provinces. Curfew rules for women without a male guardian in Aceh, for example. Morality rates targeting public behavior, stigmatization of women activists and survivors, I think been reported very well by Human Rights Watch or Freedom House, or even the Global Witness reported 2025 saying 90% of women activists experience online harassment. Situation is not good, including unjust resource control in the villages, fuel conflict, and gender-based violence. I think report from UN Women very clearly in explaining the equitable resource distribution combined with the weak local institution frequently trigger violent confrontation and disproportionately impact to women. So with that, actually, So we also seeing opportunity as Indonesia adopted a new law in 2014 about village. And one of the important inside the village law is about the women participation also required 30%, and the other is the effort on peace building. We, along with the implementation of SDGs, we also seeing that a good initiative coming from our ministry that they also implementing SDGs into a village level. We also see that the village offer a strategic entry point to institutionalize women participation across sectors, from decision making to resource governance. We also see that strengthening village structure can enable gender responsive regulation, community-based protection system, and accessible support services, making village the front line of women peace and security, and particularly ending gender-based violence and also promote women leadership and participation. And Indonesia is the second country in Southeast Asia that adopting the women peace and security agenda into national action plan. So with those things, I do believe that women peace and security should be able to land it into village level. This is just very briefly about the women peace and security. You can take a look later in my slide. This is the resolution 1325 that focusing on the women peace and security, then adopted in 112 countries. I just skip this part. I think the idea on the women peace and security covering in the 4 area, prevention, protection, participation, and relief recovery, at the same time also strengthening on the idea of human security. That's the reason why we are not only working at the conflict setting, but also the area which actually prone to conflict is part of AMAN intervention, because we believe that there are many cases where women's security threatened in the context of health, economic, community, environment, food, political. In particular, it's become worse when it comes to the context of conflict setting. This is the convergence of women, peace and security and sustainable development. I'm using UNDP platform framework on the sustainable development. You will see socially, economically, environmentally, political, and cultural and spiritual, that actually very much embedded in our community. And in line with the women, peace and security, you will see that the mainstream inclusion of women in all aspects of participation, prevention, protection, and relief and recovery be there. Then how we translate, we come up with the 10 indicators to ensure that the village having sustainably with the women, peace and security. We would like the village having the specific regulation on the protection of women and child. We would like the village actually having system and mechanism on handling violence and economic that basis on the cooperative, operating in the village level, critical education, since we have Women's School for Peace, and then we ensuring that this is adopted and funded by village level, including the Women Aspiration Forum, the cross-group association, because we are very diverse, but we want the diversity is being actually regulated and guaranteed by the state to be able to respect everyone in the village. Other things that we
Excuse me, Ibu Ruby,
can I
1
yes
minute.
can I have a 2 minutes?
Okay. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Cultural festival also part that we would like to put it into the village level to celebrate diversities and child forum, digitalization of information, including disaster response and climate adaptation. If you see this, not all indicator exist in the village level, but we are very much actually appreciated the baseline from the village level, but we develop and mastering the existing indicators, including adding some more indicators if it is needed. This is the process that we can actually talk about it during the conversation, but I would like to end by seeing the impact. Lesson number one is actually the project able to encourage mutual ownership and sharing resources, the visibility of having a model of sustainable peace village able to increase commonality between us and them, meaning that the village itself. And we are also able to increase recognition, representation, and redistribution by formalization of the each indicator, because maybe some exist already, but I think people not really taken care very well, or ensuring that how each indicator been able to benefit to actually strengthen women participation. I think more that's the most important in the work on the sustainable peace village is grounding of the full and meaningful participation. We've been occupied with so many concepts on full and meaningful participation, but I think we found that at the village level, and with the 10 indicators, you actually expanding the rooms for the participation, ensuring that each indicators has the enough women, and until 50% of women engage into that, then you actually leverage the room of participation. And the other one is the revitalization of the local tradition. As part Indonesia has a very open and dynamic local tradition, it should be able to accommodate diversities and also gender responsive budgeting. So the other and the last one is the real movement for building better future for the village. So we have a lot of model of this kind of village, but I think with the integration of the women, peace and security and sustainable development, we find that a movement that provide a village can be center for inclusive and sustainable change is really there. And I am very happy to share more in the context of how we build it, or the impact, or other relating with the women, peace and security. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bu Ruby. I'm sorry for cutting the time.
Sorry.
Okay, because yeah, that's what moderator should do, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I think the key word for Ibu Ruby's presentation is community resilience, and how to create this. Actually, it can be wrapped up into two words: meaningful participation. I like so much this word, meaningful participation, because according to this presentation, we have challenges and also we have opportunities. Opportunities usually refer to legal documents, for example, public policy. But when it comes to implementation, we still need to work harder than before. So that's why we don't stop until we don't stop here and now, but we still continue. We have to still continue our struggle, because the implementation, how to make community resilience, still need a network. And also one keyword also I think very interesting from this presentation is about policing of piety. And maybe the connection, collaboration between KUPI, which take religious narrative as their point, can give more initiatives about how to decrease the policing of piety, and also how to make spiritual sustainability, as mentioned by Ibu Ruby. Okay, thank you. Do we have our third speaker here? Because I heard she is not here yet. Ibu Siti Kholisoh?
Yes, she is here.
Oh, she's here? Thank you. Ibu Siti Holiso. Now, time for you. And again, you have 10 minutes. Okay. Mbak Olis?
Yeah, sorry, I cannot open my microphone because the host have not admit yet. Sorry. Thank you, Prof. Atun, and good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to extend my appreciation to AMAN Indonesia for facilitating this important dialogue and for creating a space where we can collectively reflect, learn, and share strategies on how to build safer and more resilient communities. It's an honor to be here today alongside such inspiring speakers, Mbak Camelia and always Mbak Ruby, and colleagues who have long worked on the front line of peace building, prevention, and women empowerment. Okay, in this session, I would like to share the experience of Wahid Foundation, an organization deeply rooted in the legacy of Gus Dur in strengthening community resilience through inclusive, gender responsive, and locally grounded approach. And next slide. Okay, sorry, next. Skip. Okay, I will start my presentation. Our journey spans from the empowering women in rural village, engaging youth in pluralism-based education, to collaborating with government and religious leaders to promote peace narrative both offline and online. And as we know that we have the multi-layer and multi-dimensional challenge, as Mbak Ruby mentioned. For the first one, the economic pressure, we know poverty, unemployment, and inequality reduce people access to opportunity and dignity, especially women, making community more vulnerable to harmful influences. And the second challenge is we're talking about ideological vulnerabilities, rigid belief system can easily take root when critical thinking, pluralism, and inclusive narrative are absent. And the third one, for the individual and the psychological trigger, the individual feeling of isolation, past trauma, and lack of the purpose may push individuals to seek meaning in the rigid of exclusionary ideologies. And for the social fragmentation, the breakdown of trust and weakening of social ties within community dismisses collective capacity to respond to tension and peacefully. And the last challenge that we face that about digital disruption, online platform can accelerate the spread of polarizing content while also shaping how people perceive identity community. And for the multi-layer and multi-dimensional challenge, our vision in our organization, community resilience as the foundation. We believe that community resilience is central to preventing spread of deceive of harmful ideologies. Our approach is based on strengthening cohesiveness across community to foster inclusive society where no one is left behind. We work with the diverse stakeholder, and we work with the diverse community and background from the various region in Indonesia. The community resilience for us is not only about bouncing back from the crisis, it's about building everyday system of solidarity, dignity, and peace. Next slide. Okay, next slide. Keep, okay. That I will talking about how we build community resilience with the 5 key dimensions. We need the community resilience that we work that we have the 5 key dimensions. For the first one, we work with the social. We will measure about the social resilience, the capacity of community to maintain and strengthen social cohesion, build trust across different and collectively manage tension without resorting to violence. The second one, for the individual resilience, the ability of the individuals, especially women and youth, to process adversity, reclaim agency, and actively participate in the shaping a peaceful and inclusive society. And the third one, we know that the economic as the one of the vulnerable here, and for the material resilience is important. The community's capacity to meet basic needs, reduce economic pressure, and promote inclusive livelihoods, enabling people, particularly vulnerable groups, to live with the dignity and the security. For the next, we work to measure that, talking about ideological resilience, the strength to challenge divisive worldview that uphold inclusive, pluralistic values that Gus Dur say that the promote mutual respect and tolerance and active tolerance and peaceful coexistence. And we work with the religious leader that as a QP work that we know that the religious figure have a potential and the strategic lure to shaping the religious culture in the society. The last is we will measure about the digital resilience, the ability of the community and individuals to navigate digital space safely, counter online hate and misinformation, and use technology as a tool for peace, dialogue, and empower. From this concept, we try to develop some of the practical model that we do, and we encourage more inclusive society in the grassroots level. We work with the diverse stakeholder. We work with the diverse civil society representation in the local level, and also we work with the diverse background from the private sector, and also from the media group, and also from the philanthropy group, and also from the education institution. Next. Okay, this is the practical model that we work maybe since 2013 that Mbak Ruby said. The Peace Village initiative, I warmly invite fellow colleagues here and partner to adopt, replicate, and adapt similar model of the community empowerment in your respective context, so that together we can build a resilient, inclusive, and peaceful society from the ground up, as AMAN do with the Sustainable Peace Village. So the Peace Village, our Peace Village is that we combining for the 4 pillars in the person, from the woman economic resilience and social cohesion and conflict prevention, and also we start to strengthen the inclusive local governments with the strong women and leadership, and the last one, the community-led climate and environmental action. For this initiative, we try to facilitate that the women's group in the village center have the safer space, and also to ensure that we have the 5 key components of the resilience that I mentioned before. Next. Yeah, this is another our initiative to ensure that youth engagement to fostering youth-led community resilience, because the value based learning route, the principle of the pluralism, human dignity, and non-violence inspired by the legacy of Gus Dur. We engage the over than 2,000 youth from the diverse background across Indonesia in transformative peace education. Because through the peace education, we try to ensure that youth generation have the positive mindset and also transforming from the dialogue to action in the social environment in their villages. We facilitate.
Sorry, Ibu Holiso, 1 minute left.
Okay, next.
Sorry.
Okay, this is another our initiative, Peace Law Operation, that we ensure that from the economic resilience. The last one, next. Sorry. Okay, the last one. Sorry. I need more 1 minute. Sorry, next slide. Just giving for this slide. Okay, practical model. Yeah, I just want to talk about the Peace School Initiative, ya, Sekolah Damai. Our strategy, we try to building capacity for the teacher and school leader on peace education and inclusive practices and non-violent communication. And the second one, we try to integration of peace of value into the curriculum and school culture, including anti-bullying campaign and student engagement forum. And the third one, we ensure that establishing student-led peace club to encourage active participation and leadership among youth in promoting tolerance. And the last, we try to strengthen school-based early warning and response mechanism to detect sign of the discrimination, radicalization of social tension. This is relate with the Permendikbud about tiga dosa besar pendidikan. And the last one, we try to engage in parents and community leaders to ensure a supportive ecosystem beyond the classroom. And we work more than 78 schools in the diverse region in the 4 provincial, Jakarta, West Java, Central Java, and the East Java. And also, we try to develop the development of the peace village through the learning management system. And we have the website that especially we try to encourage to conduct a online training to teacher and the student and also the education stakeholder in the education into institution. The last slide. Okay, thank you for this opportunity. I would like to appreciation of this forum, and I hope this initiative can inspire us to consist to promoting peace and through women peace and security framework. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Holiso. Yeah, I think beside village or religious narrative, school is a very good place to introduce the issue of anti-violence, anti-extremism, and so on. And in Minister of Religious Affairs, we now have love-based curriculum. I think this curriculum can be integrated into the program of school, Peace at School. Thank you again. And now time for our discussion to reflect to the 3 presentations. Sorry for giving the first time for Mrs. Amina Rasul from Philippines. You have 10 minutes to give to provide some insights. Mr. Amina? Mrs. Amina, sorry. Time for you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I wish we had more time really to listen to more specific of the 3 presentations. I'd really like to thank our panelists for their very inspiring contributions. What we have heard today is a very clear and compelling reminder that preventing radicalization, preventing violent extremism, and building resilient communities cannot be separated from inclusion, education, and grassroots leadership, especially by women. And what we see in this exciting Indonesian model is not just about innovation. Many of us in Southeast Asia know the concept that they present to be true. That peace building must begin from the ground up, and it must center or at least include the leadership of women and the resilience of our communities. I know resilient communities has become a buzzword, but I think we in Southeast Asia have always known that to be true, and that is why many of our initiatives, whether in the Philippines, in Indonesia, or in Malaysia, if they are grounded in the community, the chances of success is much, much higher. What is particularly powerful is the use of local wisdom to inform global strategies. Whether it's KUPI's inclusive religious narrative or AMAN's Peace Village model or the Wahid Foundation Sekula Damai, these are deeply contextual, community-rooted approaches that also offer valuable lessons for broader policy frameworks. And in particular, the Sekula Damai initiative, I think, reminds us that peace begins early. Schools are not just places of learning, they're laboratories for tolerance, dialogue, and empathy. And just FYI, in my country, the Philippine government very early on, maybe 15 years ago, mandated the Department of Education and the Commission on Higher Education to incorporate peace education into the teachings. So the teachers have to have the framework. How do you teach peace education, not just in conflict areas, but all over the country? And I guess this is really acceptance of the fact that peace has to begin early, and peace is a situation, is a foundation that we need, not just in conflict influence or conflict affected area, but everywhere. Because threats to our security, to our peace, can come from any factor. I mean, all we have to do is look at what's happening in the United States to realize that it doesn't take very long for a stable country to move nearer and nearer a cliff. These initiatives actually resonate deeply with us at the Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy. Like KUPI, AMAN, and the Wahid Foundation, we recognize that true security must be human-centered and locally driven. KUPI's work in advancing inclusive religious narratives echoes our own efforts to support progressive Muslim voices, particularly women scholars and community leaders who challenge extremist interpretations and promote tolerance. We have actually co-developed a 3-semester diploma program on women, peace, and security that the Mindanao State University approved and offered in the Mindanao State University Maguindanao campus last year. And we hope to have this diploma program replicated in our other campuses by next year. Now, your Sustainable Peace Village model parallels our commitment, NGOs, even government and national government and local government, our commitment to community-based peace building in Mindanao. And this is because we have learned our lesson from a hard place. After decades of armed conflict, the community leaders, women, religious leaders from different faiths came together and started saying, no more, enough is enough. Our community, we need to establish peace zones. And this was the kind of effort, very community-based, that moved forward and started building a strong movement to support the peace agreement. So I have a general question and a specific question. My general question for our three panelists, your projects are really quite exciting. How do you move from pilot project to policy offered and implemented by your government? Now, for Camila, how do you see COPI's religious narrative influencing young people, especially women and girls? In Indonesia, you have two powerful religious organizations, the Muhammadiyah and the Nadlatul Ulama. I know that they haven't said that you don't have a voice, but how do you really get them to be active supporters of COPI? And for Ruby, the Peace Village model ensures that women are not just participants, but decision makers. My question to you, Ruby, how can you scale it up? Because if you have an effective strategy to do that, all of us are going to copy it, Ruby. For City Coliso, how can the Sekolah Damai model be aligned with COPI's religious narratives? So thank you all very much, and I really look forward to hearing more about your amazing work.
You are muted, Mbak Atun.
Sorry. Thank you, Mrs. Amina. And now for the second chance will be for Mrs. Visaka Darmadasa. And for the questions, I think we will give them time for answering in Q&A session.
Yeah,
Visaka?
thank you, madam. Thank you very much. And I want to thank Ruby very much for giving me the opportunity to listen to these amazing speakers, very impressive, and also feel like the models, especially the COPI model has to be internationalized, as you told, ma'am, because it's extremely important for other countries to learn. It's not only the Muslim majority countries, but even other countries who are also having strong religious backgrounds. So I think this is extremely important. So at the outset, I want to thank you all. And also I want to give a virtual applause to Amina. Yeah, I was really impressed by the inclusive religious narratives, especially the compassion to be embedded in the COPI, the women ulamas Congress's work, because that's, I think, the base, which really everything has to be built up. And very much amazed, and as I told before, it's extremely important to be replicated. And I think you spoke about Nairobi. Yes, our good friend from Mombasa was with us in Aceh. who is Soraya, who is not no more with us. But this is very important, and there's a lot of takeaways for everybody in all three presentations, especially also the ability of women to issue fatwas. I've never heard about it before. And I was just asking Azra from my office, do Sri Lanka has women ulamas? Because it's important for them, Ruby, to have some exchange programs. Because Sri Lanka have been, exactly, Muslim women in Sri Lanka have been fighting for 50 long years to change the personal law. We have had a minister, a Muslim gentleman, a lawyer as our Minister of Law, Justice. And also Madam Ferial was speaking to me and she said, 50 long years we have been fighting and still we are unable to bring the age of marriage, because that's a big issue of age of marriage and many other, the divorce laws and all. So there's a lot to learn from Indonesia for us, and especially when speaking about the transformation, because this is important. And also the most catchy sentence, Camilla, what you told was that protecting the country from violence. So that really brings you for that elevation, that also what Amina spoke, scaling up. At the outset, scaling up, because that gives us the legitimacy and also bring the people to listen to us. So it's a very, very smart move. When the Kupi, the Maulavis speak about protecting the country from violence. And I think that's exactly helps for you to get grounded and be accepted throughout the country. And Ruby, for your special, this sustainable peace villages, very beautiful concept. We have heard a lot about localizing 1325, but I think this is really grounding 1325 to get the local knowledge to be heard and amplified globally. So as Sanam always says, yes, locally rooted and globally connected. So this is a very nice model. Again, I was thinking, why not for us to study and also really look, especially also I was really, even all three presentations, the Wahid Foundation, the schools, the peace schools, peace education from the childhood, extremely important, as Amina very correctly told. I mean, Sri Lanka, we were speaking about peace education a long time ago, but we really lack that kind of initiatives. So definitely there will be connections, there will be connections to be made by our policymakers and your country policymakers, and also about the decision making within the village, where you give the prominence for the women, not deliberately, like you don't force it, but you allow the system to grow within through your initiative. That's one thing what I saw was very important. You don't go and say, like, we want to make the women the decision making, but you have some projects or some work, some initiatives that really creates that women's leadership within the village, because it's very important within the village at the grassroots level for people to understand how important the decisions that the women make. And that definitely sure can be scaled up. I'm not going to ask questions, but I want to share very briefly that when the Easter Sunday bombing happened, we were able, exactly, again, Sanam was with me in the epicenter, I call in Kathankudi, speaking to the women. At that time, everybody was scared to go there, but we went and we spoke to the women and asked, what can we do to build back again the relationships, because when something like that happens, the relationships break. So what can we do to build the relationships? And what we did was, for one whole year, women of all ethnicities and religions came together once a month to do something which is beneficial to the village. They clean the religious places, they clean a mosque, a temple, a church, and also they brought the children together, their children together, to also celebrate maybe a children's park. And also they did small advocacies, to get things done in their own villages, and of course celebrated the religious festivals of each other, which again you were speaking in the village, the cultural dimension. So these are very important things that I wanted to share. We did it in 3 places and it was very successful, where we also extended the peer committees to 15 districts. And also the resilience, this is extremely important. As villagers, we do have resilience within our own systems and our own ancestral, way of life. So it's a matter of learning from the knowledge of the ground. And I think the Sustainable Peace Village is something very important also to look at the traditional knowledges, how women coped for climate, for all kinds of disasters, and also learn and bring them to the schools through the peace education. That will be something very good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Visaka. And now, actually, we have 5 minutes left for Q&A session, but I didn't see the question in the chat room. And if I should give an opportunity for participants to ask questions, maybe only one question, because we've already had 4 questions actually. One general question from Mrs. Amina for all the speakers, and one specific question for each. Okay, while waiting for the participant to give us questions, I will ask Ibu Holisa first to answer the questions from Mrs. Amina. The first one is, how do you move your initiative from pilot project to become public policies in Indonesian context? And also how these peace schools can be integrated into village sustainable peace from village. And KUPI, and also KUPI, how to integrate KUPI initiative through inclusive interpretation of religion into your initiative. Time for you, Ibu Holiso. Is Ibu Holiso with us here? If not, we will give first opportunity to Mrs. Ruby. Ibu Ruby?
Yeah. Okay, thinking about the escalating the model to national level. So before answering that, I would like to put the story of why we are interested to develop a community base, because in our previous work, AMAN Indonesia has been very much engaged into the adoption of the 1325 in national context. We've been orchestrating the civil society organization at the provincial level to ensure that localization of the National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security is really with a strong engagement of civil society organization. And we also realizing that facing very complex bureaucracy, nature, and also how do you call it? More like political dynamic in Indonesia, which actually never really put the women, peace, and security as the primary agenda for the state. So in the last almost more than 10 years in assisting the women, peace, and security agenda to be implemented at the national and also at the provincial level, we're realizing that we're facing a lot of even too much excuse from the government level when it comes to the implementation. I think frankly speaking, it's a too much checkbox approach done that we see very little in terms of how to ensure the inclusion and the conflict resolution really happening. And I am very much disappointed with the 10 years progress that we see. We still seen that the approach to conflict resolution is so much masculine, with a very little engagement from women from the national ministry, including the civil society in the context of conflict resolution. So the reason why village become a wider space for us to exercising and finding a way how actually to expand the rooms for women participation, because I think we have the law on village that actually explicitly having 30% quota for the women in the participation and also the peace building agenda. In that combination, we found that there is a huge opportunity at the village level to really engage in that way. If we would like to escalate to the national level, which actually government can release the regulation to expand the implementation of the model, I think one of that we can see that the government already how do you call it, invented the model on inclusive village as the commitment to the implementation of SDGs. So with that, actually the government also implementing other model. So to bridging this, the best way to do is actually offering the model of women inclusion, because in the inclusive village or other type of village invented by the government, very often that the several key elements on the women, peace, and security are not present. Number one is relating with the ability of the women engage in the conflict resolution. I do believe that they have like a lacking on that. Number two is actually relating with dealing with the gender-based violence, in particularly in the conflict setting, where we are still struggling in dealing with the survivor of sexual violence in context of conflict. Number three is really the women leadership in supporting the women organization and leadership in order to be able to fulfill the opportunity at the village level to be leader, which actually much more potential, but at the same time in facing in reality, because the politics of clientelism, where the politician is so much using voters, buying voters by offering materials, job, good, but not for those who are not voted. I mean, with this thing is we facing very serious challenge for women leadership at the local level, because of the political position are still so much attracted for men, and in particularly with the ruling party right now, there is potential for formal political engagement are going to be occupied by the winner, and that is actually even more a challenge to women participation, but still have a hope, of course. I think under SDGs is still potentially to be included, and also the third generation of National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security that national still in a process of formulating. So also very possible to be engaged, including I think what could be already produced have been actually used by several villages, in particularly the religious leaders coming from the village that we are working. We also introduce what could be what the transformative knowledge from could be. I think that's for now.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Ruby. Actually, we have one more question for you from the chat, but I think for now I will go to Mrs. Camelia first to ask Mrs. Amina's questions. The questions focus on how to promote the participation of girls into KUPI narratives, religious narratives, and also how do you scale up again? How do you move from only initiative to public policies related to your movement? Time for you, Mrs. Camelia.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Atun. Thank you, Mrs. Amina and Visaka. Now we are our like what KUPI do is in a different pathway. So if I can say that how to disseminate the inclusive religious narrative, particularly among the youth, this actually become challenging. But if I may say that KUPI networks have been developed, a lot of supporting digital activists, be it formally in form of a website or in form of a social media or in form of a social influencers, which support KUPI's paradigm, which support KUPI. And if I can share one second, if I can share, if you can see that this is the Hasil Congress. This is all the document. And also, if you can see this is Mubadala ID. It is one of, this is one example, example of a website which spread the inclusive narrative about from KUPI. And also this is her social media on Facebook and also on Instagram. If you may say, this is it's a lot of followers, and a lot of people refer to this. And also I'm also one of the contributor in Mubadala ID, and also not only in publishing, but also training, training digital activists from Mubadala ID. And not only that, there is a lot of personal influencers who amplify this idea. And also the network, the KUPI network, is not only institutional based, but beyond institutional base. Only in a religious leader, if we say that religious leaders, they have like a they can multiply influence, particularly when this religious leader spread the inclusive narrative. Obviously it will be heard by the common people. And besides that, also the digital advocacy I was saying, and also community-based religious informal meeting, commonly in masjid, on also in a small community, which is in Indonesian society, it is commonly active by women. And also, not only that, KUPI also collaborate with male ulama. So if we the definition of woman ulama is not limited into female, but also male ulama who have who have attention on the agenda of women, we call also among us. So like the prominent ulama like Kiai Fakihuddin, and also like Buya Kiai Hussein, who they also very influent in shaping the inclusive narrative of religion. So, and also like from the KUPI, the first Congress, it was the bill on the sexual violence was discussed in the government, and it was also from the different women activists, and also KUPI also involved in advocating this bill, and thanks it was passed in 2022 law on sexual violence acts, and the law aimed to prevent, handle, protect, and rehabilitate victims of sexual violence. It is a great contribution, not only from KUPI, but also from the whole women activists who speak up. And KUPI also amplify this in terms of a religious, advocacy, so that this law has been passed. And also talking about the network, there are also from the governmental level, we have also the network which is also active in ministries, and also active in the House of Representatives. In this way, we try KUPI try to enter into different different entrench, be it in informal one or in formal one, or in institutional or in a personal. So the network was spread beyond institutional base. Therefore, we say that the collaboration is building a space not only for women actually, but a space for giving an inclusive religious narrative, which is become how to build religion also as advocate for gender justice. I think that is for me. I hope this is answering the question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Camelia, Ibu Camelia. Yeah, we still have 2 questions actually, but I don't think we have enough time. But I don't want to, make them asking this question all the time without getting response from Ibu Ruby. Maybe if you can answer the question in 1 or 2 minutes, Ibu Ruby.
Yeah.
I know this question need lots of time, but we don't have time. So 1 or 2 minutes for these 2 questions. I don't need to read, just directly you can see from chat. Sorry.
The question,
Yeah, the most challenging
Well,
factor to implement the
yes, it is.
sustainable peace,
Oh,
and about RSD model, reflective structure dialogue model.
okay. I think what currently we are seriously facing, not only at the village that we are working right now, but I think the entire of Indonesia, is the oligarchy in our democracy. That's really big challenge for us, because oligarchy that we are facing right now, having or more consequences to concentration of power, where decision making dominated by few elites block community voices. The other, that's of course undermining inclusive governance and collective accountability. We are very afraid that the oligarchy even can weaken social cohesion, then increasing distrust among citizens due to the perceived injustice, because currently there are so many voices on the media, social media already, how the people actually protesting about the injustice distribution. That's definitely can fueling conflict, competition, and even polarization at the village level. I think we already witnessed the introduction of the government initiated cooperative called Koperasi Merah Putih is already create a conflict among the people, because the government did not do a proper assessment or even value what is existing at the village level and leverage to be more functional instead of creating something new. I feel that the reflective structure dialogue, of course, is one of the alternative way to embrace all people, in particularly the voiceless that never have really room to express their thoughts, idea, because the approach is really designed to be a safe space for everyone to share their journey in understanding or experiencing diversity in Indonesia, or even experiencing the injustice and perhaps improper the implementation of the regulation. RSD I've been implemented by AMAN in responding several conflict setting, and I do believe that people have more, a capacity when it comes to the small circle, and then with the more how do you call it, manageable way, how to actually accommodate their voices. Not only that, I think that's the best model for us to allow the women leadership exercising peace and also thinking about what is the best for the community, because they experience this and their knowledge is authoritative and valued by the process of RSD. And to end with that, of course, we are very open for sharing more our model to be accommodated by all of you, and let's connect it and collaborate in the future how this model can be benefiting to your community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for all the participants. Actually, we got so much insights to conclude, and I think we don't have enough time also to conclude all the, the presentation. But I have several points just to highlight that from this forum, we highlight the importance of women's role in activities related to women, peace and security, but the definition of peace and security not only related to traditional conflict, but also cover many aspects of our life. And the second one, peace building must be omnipresent from individual level, family, at school, social, and also the state and our country, our Indonesian state must be involved in this program or in this issue of women, peace and security. And also, we heard some keywords from all the presentations, actually. For example, from Ibu Olis, she mentioned about ideological vulnerability. And also from Ibu Ruby, policing of piety. Based on this, we can say this novelty from their initiative, their finding, Actually, we can highlight also, but that copy initiative we still need for, until we don't have a limited time, actually forever. We still need KUPI, and the involvement of women in KUPI highlights that women also a very strategic group in boosting our energy to always involve in this activities or in this initiative. And I think peace, more than just life needs, it is actually prerequisite for needing our life. I will close this forum with that highlights. And thank you for all the participants, also for 3 speakers, and last but not least, for our discussants. I think we will progress to a next session. And as moderator, I'm Atun Wardatun. Thank you so much for your participation. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor Atun, for expertly moderating the third panel session and for throwing out valuable reflection and best practices from each of the speakers. Distinguished guests, speakers, and participants, we now move to panel session 4 with the title Reclaiming Civic Space, Civil Society's Role in Building Peace and Preventing Violent Extremism. This session will be led by Mrs. Debbie Avianti as our moderator. Mrs. Debbie Avianti is a political science lecturer at the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Universitas Muhammadiyah Jakarta, and former member of the steering committee for the Working Group on Women Preventing and Countering Violent Extremism, or WGWC. The screen is yours, Mrs. Debbie.
Okay, thank you. So, can you hear my voice? Hello?
It's very not,
Yeah.
I cannot hear clearly.
We can try again the audio. Mrs. Debbie, please.
Hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay, thank you very much, AMAN Indonesia, and also UN Women for organizing this Women Peacebuilders Forum. It is very enriching, and then also opening our eyes to those various insights. And we'll come back to our session, the last one. Right now, we are entering the session 4, Reclaiming Civic Space, Civil Society's Role in Building Peace and Preventing Violent Extremism. So this session is deeply anchored in our collective understanding that preventing violent extremism cannot happen without an open civic space, where women-led civic society can mobilize, advocate, and co-create solutions. So our discussion today will shed light on how civic actors, especially women and grassroots organizations, negotiate space, influence policy, and sustain community-based prevention efforts. We will learn from Indonesia, the Philippines, and Kenya, 3 contexts with unique stories of civil society leadership in PVE. So allow me to remind us also that besides the WPS agenda brought by Resolution 1325, this session also ties directly to the spirit of UN Security Council Resolution 2242, which calls for stronger partnership with women's civil society groups to integrate WPS principles in countering violent extremism. It is also linked with the National Action Plan on PCV in each country, which emphasizes right-based, gender-sensitive, and community-rooted strategies. So today we have already had 3 experts and very distinguished speakers with us. Already we have Soraya Kamaruzaman representing the Working Group on Women and PCV, WGWC Indonesia. and she will share insights on expanding civic space in PVE through women-led civil society initiatives in Indonesia. And then our second speaker, Fatima Elian from Nisaul Haq, Mindanao, Philippines. She will present mobilizing civil society for local action plans, a bottom-up model for inclusive prevention. And the last one will be Jacinta Makoha from Kenya WPS National Steering Committee, and she will discuss negotiating power and civil society engagement within Kenya's state-led PVE architecture. So to enrich our dialogue, we have also two highly respected discussions here. The first is Rawan Kawaji, Program Officer at the International Civil Society Action Network, or ICANN, based in Brussels, where she supports the Innovative Peace Fund and works closely with women-led peace-building organizations. And also Ichal Supriyadi, a seasoned democracy activist and the current Secretary General of the Asian Democracy Network, or ADN. And both of them will help us connect the dots between local experience and the global frameworks. So for the housekeeping, each speaker will have only 10 minutes. So please remind yourself, and I will remind you 2 minutes before it ends for your presentation. And throughout the session, I invite everyone to share questions or reflections in the chat box. And towards the end, we will open up for anyone who wishes to share a comment or pose questions directly also. To open up our panel, I now invite Kak Aya Suraya Kamaruzaman to present her presentation. Over to you, Kak Suraya.
Can you hear my voice? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm honored to join you today on behalf of the Working Group on Women and PTVA. It is a privilege to speak alongside my sister and colleagues from the Philippines and Kenya in the wonderful session on reclaiming civil space. Today, I will share the journey, struggle, and strategic effort of women-led civil society organization in Indonesia, particularly under the umbrella of WTWC as the comfort-seeking civil space, motivate and then encourage patriarchal and political structure, and build transformative peace infrastructure from the grassroots. Our work sits at the intersection of gender, security, and justice, grounded in the belief that sustainability peace is not possible without feminist leadership and inclusive policy framework. Okay, I will present our key strategies, lesson, and reflection draw from the experience of the Working Group on Women and PTV, or WGWC. Our discussion today draw upon the key document and initiative by WGWC, including our 7-year report, the book Membumikan Gender, the Purwakarta SC report, and then insight from AMAN CSO partnership work. Let me begin with the quote. Next, please. Let me begin with the quote that captures our core principle. Mainstreaming gender and social inclusion is not a decorative or this is a fundamental requirement for justice. Indeed, we firmly believe that no women, no peace. And next, please. Let me introduce a bit about WGWC. WGWC is a networking platform for civil society and government actors working to strengthen gender mainstreaming in the politics and intervention addressing radicalism and violent extremism in Indonesia. It currently has 32 partner and was officially declared on July 24, 2017 in Bogor. This is envision the growth and empower of women and agents of peace in the prevention and countering of violence extremism. Our mission, next please. Yeah, to build a collective working network and national, regional, and international movement of women works in the field of TPVE, to establish a platform as a common space for fostering coordination and strategy among institutions involved and addressing women-related issues in CPVE. And then to develop a research and knowledge center as hub for data and information, serving as a space for articulating aspiration and solution related to women issue in CPVE. And then the last one, to establish a capacity building from women through workshop and training program, consultation, strategic and technical advisory support, mentoring, and institution support for civil society and government agency in addressing women and children in TVE. Next, please. So the process of a WC formulation, we starting at the beginning informal meeting with key actor among NGO and then express expert group meeting and women and PCV. This is in 2016, and then in 2000 next years we starting with strategic planning with 2 rounds. The first round specific for formulation and problem and so on, and then the second one we finish the document. And then next year, we continue with financing mechanism and negotiation. And then in 2018 till today, we starting formal working and implementing of project. And we did MOU with BMPT and government formal partnership and other. And then in 2084, we established a first assembly for partner to its situation, decide new direction of networking, and then receive government document and an election of new steering committee. And last one, we just finished the second strategic planning session to emphasize WGWC open night response to interconnection. This is some for new issue for radicalism. Next, please. And then I've just continue. This is I just followed the question from the organizing committee about how our coalition model is enable gender advocacy and PCV, and then how GWC expand civil space, and then what lesson we can share. So that's the question I follow. So actually, we did gender advocacy and policy engagement. WGWC apply an impact-oriented multi-stakeholder approach by knitting over 30 women's group, human rights institution, and an university and state actor. We have formalized partnership with 32 member organization, distribution donor fund, and then co-development knowledge hub and foster local national strategic. Next, please. For finance for the collection action, we actually donor fund for WWC are distributed to several partner organizations, while the secretariat also seek additional funding source, and then co-financial mechanism are established in collaboration with other partner. And then starting the strengths of national local GSO through National Action Plan for PE, we did strengthening the discourse of gender mainstreaming in PCV, and then ensuring collaboration with both national and local civil society organizations, and an expanding space for information and knowledge exchange through the GWC Knowledge Hub or Key Hub. And then next, gender and integration of policy. WGWC advocate for the establishment of gender mainstreaming thematic working group under the National Action Plan PA Secretariat, and that it's also published key local advocacy tool, including the gender analysis metric on violent extremism, gender audit tool, and guideline for evaluation gender response local action plan in Aceh, Central Sulawesi, and Central Java. Next, please. At this moment, Indonesia faces a real threat. Restricting civil space. This is a red partly free from democratic house in 2001, and then Indonesia continue to face issues such as rising religion intolerance, politicalization of identity, sectarianism, challenge faced by religion minority, women involved in a violent extremism, violation of freedom of religion in belief, and then discriminatory local relegation target on women, and then the country is also affected by increasing recruitment and radicalism by violent extremism group. And last one, weak state accountability and limit protection for women human rights defender. Next, please. And then WGWC has responded through creating 770 public opinion article and 110 media
2 minutes
products.
to go ya, Kak.
Okay, just to a slide. Challenge patriarchy and religion extreme, supports female Muslim scholar Kuki in issuing protection fatwa, you already heard before in other presentation, and sign a formal MOU with BNPT and helped shape the local action plan for VE in a province. And then next, grassroots and local innovation. Next, please. Establish Postpeta. This is a forum for wife of ex-tourism conflict, and then piloting reflection structure dialogue in Depok to reduce stigma. You already heard this presentation too. And then our success rate on the trust. Next, please. Trust-based coalition, we move from informal bond to formal partnership with shared rule, accountability, and collective goal. And knowledge protection, our KAHAP offer book, module, and tool used not only in Indonesia, but in ASEAN and international forum. And then our ethnic root in feminist care and maternal thinking, inspired by Sarah Redak, with counter empathy, listening, and community response. And then last one is closing message. Let me conclude with the confession. The collective power of women civil society is a bulwark of democracy and humanity in the face of extremism. Thank you, and I give you to back, Mbak Debbie.
Thank you so much, Kak Aya. That's very sharp. So, one follow-up questions about giving the trends of shrinking civic space in Indonesia. So, how does WG and WC avoid securitization or maybe co-optation by the state?
Do I have to answer now or after the other presentation?
This is just follow-up questions from your PowerPoint. So you can answer now.
Okay, this is about the security, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Co-optation by the state, because if we are too close to the state,
I know.
Yeah,
so that's why
you experience it already, right?
Yeah. That's why we need we have a rule, and then we have standard we put in our books. Yeah, so we just followed the standard of our organization to make, and then we have very serious standard for evaluation rule to make sure we can still even we working with BMPT, what we still can what we call criticize them. And then I think they understood that because the standard we produce we share to them too. 2 days ago, I think we just have finished a meeting with BMPT and other, and then explain the rule of the indicator, what WG and WC prepare for the indicator, what really we need to do, and then of course including the way how to work together. I hope I can answer the question.
Okay, thank you, Kaya. So thank you for highlighting the Indonesian's journey in localizing NAPs as well as institutionalizing the voices of women in Indonesia. But now let's hear what will be shared by Fatima from Mindano's case. So the screen is yours, Fatima.
Thank you.
Your time is also 10 minutes.
Yes, I already have my timer set.
All right, that's good.
Yeah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. I hope I'm clear because I have a problem as always with the internet. Am I clear?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you so much. So just for context and a little briefer, is that this is a slide from the Bangsamoro Women Commission, the next 3 slides. So the first slide basically is on RAP WPS 2023 and 2028. There was an assessment in June 2022 that revealed that the previous farm RAP WPS lacked a standard monitoring tool, and therefore they need to come up with a response to that and to have a regular feedback mechanism on RAP WPS. Hence, this RAP WPS 2023 was launched in 2023 and has been introduced in the different parts of the Bangsamoro region. Next, please. Okay, so I'm sorry, can you go back to the second one? Thank you. So just again, this is from the Bangsamoro Women Commission, just to show you, and I'm pretty sure Amina have already introduced that they have a course. The next slide, please. Thank you. That there is a course on the advanced WPS, and this is a very exciting activity that hasn't been done thus far by others. So it's something that we are all looking forward to, the first cohort of the course. Next slide, please. So we'll go now to the different CSOs who are doing promoting and advocating for the RAP WPS. Next slide, please. Thank you. So We Act 1325. Hold on. So We Act 1325 is, or Women Engage in Action 1325, is a network of human rights, peace, and women's organizations committed in the implementation of Philippine NAP on UNSCR 1325 and 1820. They are in existence for more than a decade, and we are part of the network. And they have done a lot of different advocacy work and programs on meaningful political participation of women to the different capacities on human rights, transitional justice, women's political leadership, among others. They make sure that there are a lot of community women leaders, tribal leaders, women who are into small businesses, women who are religious leaders, women in the academy are invited to be part of the different capacity development. And they are also invited to lobby and do work at both Congress of the Philippines, that is the Philippine Congress and the Senate of the Philippines, on important legislative agenda. And side example is the Bangsamoro Organic Law, wherein They were very successful in genderizing the language of the law and also other important local legislatives with the parliamentary of God. Next, please. Okay, so but I would like to draw your attention to what about the other side of the story when you talk of WPS? That is actually not really mainstream in some areas in terms of advocacy amongst the CSOs, and that is the climate justice. We know very well that in the Philippines, we are top 5 in terms of how affected heavily we are of climate change. And that on the second paragraph, as you can see, majority of the Bangsamoro areas are very highly exposed to climate vulnerability, including like cyclones, droughts, earthquakes, floods, and also we have water scarcity. The El Nino last year was very devastating to the livelihoods of our farmers and our poultry farmers in the islands and other parts of the region. Next, please. So therefore, you look at the sea level rise is part of the displacements of the people. You also look at flooding, soil erosion, El Nino, and you also have violence and conflict are all pushing people to really look at what is happening within the communities, what are the plans of the government, and how can the CSOs also help in navigating these very challenging times in the bar. Next slide, please. So one of the ways that the CSOs are helping out is through this platform. We call it the Humanitarian Partnership Platform. There are 40 organizations under CARE Philippines, and the partners are humanitarian and development workers, where we do emergency response and preparedness, anticipatory actions, and other non-emergency programs, including, of course, SGBV advocacies. But of course, there are constant challenge and consciousness of not working in silos in that humanitarian work is also part of peace building, and that gender should be integrated in all the levels of the program. There are emergency response fund available to do rapid assessments by the CSO, so we are able to talk to the communities and we let the community do the direction of what do they need and what and how they can work also closely together with the government. So that is a bottom-up approach. There are also tools and monitoring and evaluation are constantly evolving because we need to be gender responsive and gender sensitive to reflect the live realities of the programs. And most importantly, the HPP is also a platform where women, especially feminist organizations like ourselves, the need to work with men so that we are able to achieve, the different pillars of WPS. And again, it's also an opportunity for women to influence the programs of the men organizations so that they're able also to contribute to WPS. Next, please. Thank you. In a very high volatile conflict-prone area, we are doing a humanitarian corridor for emergency response. What do? These are, we have a very active peace process, alhamdulillah, in the Bangsamoro. So we utilized whatever mechanisms that there are, and we really work together with the rebel fronts. We work with community women. We work with community men. We work with religious local government units, business sectors. Also, we also work with them. And what we do is we have to make sure that, again, the people is very active in ensuring that the safety of the community and those from the outside who are going to go into their community to work together for peace building. When conflict arises, most often than not, there are a lot of CSOs who do not like to get into communities. So the Bangsamoro CSOs play a pivotal role together with the Mujahideen and the Mujahidats of MI11 and MNLF, and we work together with the committee members to transport not only goods, but also other necessities such as medical supplies. Next, please. This is very important that, as you can see, that there is really a need for a climate change literacy in the barn because in this paper, it says that there is low level of awareness and understanding of how how to move forward with all the challenges in terms of the climate change, temperatures, the incremental weather, the storm surge, and all that. And therefore, next slide, please. And therefore, we try to really do a very small, alhamdulillah, activities and advocacy for 2 years in the province of Tawi-Tawi, where we work with women farmers and women fisher folks. Also, there are men farmers and men fisher folks, CSOs with Mindanao State University, Tawi-Tawi, and government agency in the province. This is to avoid the risk of unpreparedness and to mitigate and adapt to face the ever-changing challenge of climate change. The women farmers and fisher folks were consulted in value chain analysis exercises to evaluate their effectiveness in improving their welfare across multiple dimensions. Agriculture, poultry, and aqua business value chains are for sure there are a lot of sociocultural norms and the gender dynamics that impacts the benefits that they can get, the resources that they can get, and the access to opportunities. While we know that the women play a very crucial role in the economic livelihood, they are also generally sidelined, and they are least valued parts of the value chain with the lowest economic returns. So through this exercise, the women are able to, understand what is the impact of climate in their livelihood, plan to respond to emergencies, and produce other sources of livelihood during incremental weather systems, such as El Nino, La Nina, storm surge, and others. We also partner with government agencies and academia to facilitate better analysis of crop value, organic farming methods, and scientific evidence-based monitoring that are easy for the community to do. But again, there are still a lot of gaps. My time is up, but if you can give me just a minute. But there are still a lot of gaps and challenges that we need to do in order to capacitate women to adapt and to mitigate. One of which is to ensure that we have good knowledge in terms of the indigenous skills that they have been doing for so long that they may have forgotten. And these are into organic farming. And it's very important that we do a lot of organic farming and producing eco-engine also for poultry and for other and other products. Next, please. Yes, and my last slide is basically a list of how we can strengthen our efforts to respond to the challenging times ahead as CSOs, activists, human rights defenders. So we need to do a deep dive climate justice literacy sessions among the CSOs because we do not know much about this. We are not very aware of the scientific basis, evidence base that we really, really need together with the committee members. So we are all aware and we are able to understand. And that, of course, has to be gender sensitive and culturally appropriate. We need to review existing e-ware if there are any for farmers and fisher folks. We know that there are certain e-wares for IDPs, for instance, but we need to find out if there were or there still are e-ware in for fisher folks and for farmers. And if there are none, then we can definitely work together for that, so that the committees can have better mitigation, adaptation to the challenges on conflict plus climate change. The necessity of IP and Islamic perspectives on climate justice study session is very important as part of the climate justice literacy development. And we have worked with Dr. Fakihuddin Qadir 2 years ago, and was it last year, on the Mubadila framework, and we hope that we can push for that. And the policies and others, there's a need to push for the passage of the disaster risk reduction and management in the Bangsamoro. This bill seeks to create a Ministry of Disaster Resilience and establishing its powers and jurisdictions, funding supports for CSO so we can sustain our bottom-up WPS programs. And of course, finally, when we are critical of government, to government agencies or institutions, sometimes, unfortunately, the CSOs are being ragtagged as communist or anti-government, and sometimes it's kind of hard to maneuver when you are in that kind of situation because of safety issues. Thank you so much, and that's the presentation for the Bangsamoro.
Thank you so much, Sister Fatima, for bringing us the powerful example of how local communities can shape the policy from the bottom or from the ground. So Now let's hear what other speaker will share. It's also about the best practices in Kenya, and we hope that we can learn many more from the perspectives from other region, because usually we hear cases from Southeast Asia, not from Africa, but now we have Kenya's best practice. Please, the screen is yours, Jacinta.
Thank you very much. I am very grateful to have this chance to be able to share with very, very important women and activists and members of the Women Peace Forum in Indonesia and beyond. Thank you very much once again. So I'm going to be looking at negotiating power, the civil society engagement within Kenya's state-led PVE architecture, the Kenya case. So the first picture that I put there was actually the standard operating procedures that we developed for the National Police Service to be able to look at matters of gender-based violence and PVE. So this is the first picture. But I just want to say that as we have seen, we have said that Kenya, the matter of PVE was actually led by the state from the beginning. So please, the next slide. I'm going to basically just look at why did we have to negotiate for power? Because from the beginning, when we experienced the first experience of violent extremism, the government took the lead. And so we have state institutions and structures which are mostly male-led. And as a result, the approach to handling matters of prevention and countering violent extremism have been looked at through patriarchal lenses. And so defining strategy from a patriarchal perspective. And so then I will also just look into how have the civil society advocated for the expansion of space for inclusivity. And one of the key things we have used is the unity of purpose. And of course, the 2/3 gender rule, which is a constitutional provision. Next, and then of course, utilizing the UNSCR 1325, the Kenya National Action Plan 1 and the Kenya National Action Plan 2. So next, please. So as I said, we have a state-led institution, the National Counterterrorism Center, which was established basically to prevent, please go back, for Prevention of Terrorism Act. It is an interagency institution with 3 main activities, which is policy formulation on counterterrorism and violent extremism, also coordinates national efforts in prevention and countering violent extremism, and also looking at collaboration with international, regional, and local stakeholders. So because of the government approach, we negotiated as the civil society to have the National Counterterrorism Center utilized to take a whole of society approach that involves not only state agencies, but also civil societies, religious leaders, international agencies, and local communities. So the civil society organization negotiated the shift from utilizing military approaches to the whole of society approach, which then opened the space for the civil society to be able to participate. Next, please. Next slide. So if I look at the key milestones over the 20 years where the National Counterterrorism Center has existed, in the beginning, from 2004 to 2010, the National Counterterrorism Center focused on intelligence gathering and interagency collaboration, but mainly within the Kenya security forces. So from the 1998 US Embassy bombing in Nairobi and the other bombings that we have experienced, it has been mainly responses by the intelligence security mechanisms. However, from 2011 to 2014, especially when we had the rise of Al-Shabaab, because of the Kenya's intervention in Somalia in 2011, the NCTC shifted from that security approach to also including the community, having been negotiated by the civil society, to be able also to look at the socio-political grievances and also to build resilience within communities. The other approach that we also used was that the law enforcement agencies, we realized that they only had the training from the security perspective, but when it came to proper community interactions, they were not very well trained. So we took time to develop standard operating procedures to be able to help them to know how to engage with the communities. Next, so there were lots of training programs for law enforcement agencies, and we are still continuing because this is supposed to help in the prevention of radicalization rather than only countering radicalization. Next, please. So in 2016, the National Counterterrorism Center developed a national strategy. This was now to take on board the space we had negotiated as the civil society. And so one of the most significant milestones in the history of the NCTC was actually the development of this strategy. And it is very important because this now brought in a comprehensive approach that placed emphasis on prevention, de-radicalization, and the rehabilitation of extremists. And this also emphasized bringing together government agencies, civil society, religious leaders, to also address the underlying factors driving radicalization, because I know we all know about the fact that prevention is better than cure. So this now also increased the engagement with the youth, because we realized that in the leadership of the NCTC, basically we had males who were a little older. And so now we were talking about engagement with youth, women, and religious leaders. So this was also now to make sure that we had inclusive and the measures that are actually rooted in local realities. Next, please. Next slide, please. So the other approach we used was to, because Kenya has two levels of government, we have the national level, but we also have the county level. And so apart from the national strategy, we also work together to bring into place the county level action plans. So the NCTC supported county level action plan development. And this was very important because then it helped us to include matters of early identification of risks, and also allowed for community policing and mentorship programs to thrive in the vulnerable regions. So in 2024, the NCTC also revised, because we have had many lessons learned from 2016. And because now as the women, we decided that we are going to utilize the spaces that are provided by the UN International Days and also the UN instruments. So we have used a lot of the UNSCR 1325 to be able to, UNSCR 1325 years, to be able to now mainstream women especially and young people into the decision-making structures. So the achievements and lessons learned include: one, strengthening partnerships, because over the last 20 years, as I said, we have largely now learned that it's very important to have the ability to forge strong partnerships, not only within Kenya, but also across the region and also internationally. And so what we have learned is that
you just have 2 minutes to go. Your PowerPoint
okay.
have 23 slides, so you may.
No, it's all right.
Yeah.
I will skip and maybe just take a few of all right, just a moment. I think I have lost my
we can discuss
PowerPoint.
later in Q&A for
Yes.
details. Yeah.
No worries. I will just, what I wanted to say is basically we have utilized the Kenya National Action Plan approach where we have 4 main pillars in terms of making sure that women and community groups are integrated in the work. And part of one of the things, the structures we have used is the State Department for Gender working groups, where we have 5 main working groups. The Women, Peace and Security Working Group, which has the National Steering Committee, has been very key in making sure that the civil society participates within the government structures. We also have the GBV Working Group, which also gives us space to work with the government on prevention and response. Then, of course, we have the Financial Inclusion and Economic Empowerment Working Group that has also helped us to make sure that when we have the returnees, we are able to support them in terms of livelihood and reintegration into the society. And we also have Women in Leadership, where we are following through with the 2/3 gender rule, where we are saying all the structures from the national level, county level, community level must have at least 2/3 of one gender in the decision-making structures. And this is embedded in the Constitution of Kenya, Article 27, subsection 8. And we also have made sure that the National Gender and Equality Commission, we have developed, what do you call them? We have developed fact sheets that are able to help the community leaders to be able to hold the government leaders accountable. And so, in short, basically, we have learned some lessons and we are happy to share this. And I think I will stop there. And if there are questions, then I can be able to expand. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jacinta. Sorry for interrupting your beautiful presentation. And to help us frame these rich experiences from 3 cases in the broader global landscape, I invite Rawan Kawaji first from ICANN, and then after that, we go to Pak Ical from ADN. The screen is yours, Rawan.
Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to be here. It's such an honor and privilege to listen to all your experiences. I work with ICANN as well, so I have an access, or I have the privilege of an access for a network of women peace builders who are working across different contexts and different countries. And I would say that what we heard today, from all the panelists, is such a strong stance and example on how a real change and the real impact needs to happen, and when we talk about preventing violent extremism. And it's always the examples that we see most successful are the ones that are integrating not only the civil society and actors, but rather working with local communities as well, and drawing on how they can work with the governments and changing policies on the national and on the national and international level. And I feel it's such a dark times for us at the moment. I see that we have cracking civic spaces all over the globe, starting in the US and then moving to Europe. I work mainly with the Middle East, and I see that with most of the partners and women peace builders that I work with, that we are fighting a really shrinking civic spaces all over. And it's such a challenging time, because those times are where we have mostly identities and this radicalization of identities happening the best. Today, I think in the 10 minutes that I have, and drawing on the conversation that has been happening for the past 2 days with AMAN, I think I have examples to offer from Syria and Iraq. And I think one of the main takeaways that I have and at looking at analyzing this work on BVE has to do with the fact that the context in which you work with. So when I think of Syria and I think the conflict in Syria, I think about civil society actors and women peace builders who are working with, and the absence of state infrastructure to help build policies that would policies or to build spaces or cooperate on work that would require on the fight of BVE, but also those despite how we can argue how much state can be cooperative or not, but the work in the absence of state offers a more challenging, rapidly changing contexts that we often find, and the partners that I work with in Syria often find themselves are the only actors who have to respond to those crises. I think one example is mainly, I have few examples, but mainly I would say looking at the drivers of BVE in Syria over the past 14 years. In Syria, we had ISIS, we have different armed groups, radical extremist armed groups. But the main one of the main factors that was driving this kind of extremist ideology in the country was the absence of any economic development, or the lack of income and resources, especially for young guys who found that joining an armed group, despite the ideology, despite the extremism or the ideology that the armed group is fighting for, is providing an income and a decent income for their families back home or back in their cities and villages. So you would understand, and then the work that most civil actors were trying to do was how can we provide a dignified income resources for those young people and work opportunities that would help in preventing them from taking the step into joining those groups. The other example I would think now, also we have a partner who's been working with the ex-ISIS members, and I believe the ISIS members problem is across border. I know we have partners in Indonesia, and I know who are working with returnees of ex-ISIS members, and I think this is it's a problem that went beyond just Syria and Iraq, and it's now a global to some extent a global problem that we have to deal with how we work on reintegrating ex-ISIS members and their families and their kids into society. And I think one of the main approaches, one of the partners that we work on is how not working with adults directly, but rather with young children, and thinking how can we offer alternatives for the ideology that they have been raised on? How can we offer alternative way of organizing society that would prevent them from going again to the extremist ideology? And it's mainly, in the case of Syria, it's mainly the economic and a dignified economic situation that would again prevent this, the first reason in this case. The second thing, the second, I would say, example that came to my mind while listening to you all talking about your experience working with community is the work of our partners in Iraq, who has different. We have two partners who have been working directly with extremist groups and the state of Iraq there, and I think the main I would say difference between those partners is seeing and understanding how the state can be either a really cooperative entity in the work that they have been leading, or a challenge and an obstacle. And it's different. The main difference I would say between those partners are the problem that they are working with. So we have two partners. One And I think Ruby and the other Wasa sisters know Fatma and her work in Iraq, and know also Odessa and Maysoon and her work. So Maysoon and Odessa works mainly with ex-ISIS members, but the problem is that the state is not cooperative enough to work with them, to reintegrate those members into society, because there is a deep I would say social like revenge and social wound that sees the work of anyone who works with ex-ISIS members as a betrayal to the Iraqi people who had to fight with ISIS. And I think this is another I would say axis to the equation of the work on BVE and how communities approach this. And we have Fatma's work with fighting mainly on BVE, but fighting, I would say, the area that we see that her work with the police has been mostly successful. What she did also, similar to one of the approaches you mentioned, is the community police committees. So it is a joint work between youth and young people from the community who are cooperating with the police in Busra into kind of fighting and preventing violent extremism. I'm not gonna take much longer. I will just conclude by saying that looking globally at the examples that we have today, it's always women who are taking the first initiatives and seeing the work that is really needed to be done. When we talk about, when we look at the patriarchal ways the state is organized, we see the ego in dealing with PVE, and we see how resistant they are to really open dialogue spaces and open spaces with the community that would enable the fight and the prevention of BVE. And it's always the work that include bottom-up approach, include the local communities in driving, strategizing, participating in the solution that they see most fit to their context and their communities. Thank you so much, and it was
Thank you so
I'm glad.
Rawan, for highlighting that women's agency is really important in these PPE efforts. And also thank you for sharing the cases in Syria and Iraq. So now we go to Pa Ichal. Is Pa Ichal here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, the screen is yours, Pa.
Yeah, thank you so much. First, I would like to thanks the organizer who inviting me to this very like honorable occasions, a very precious moment to share perspective about it. So I've been like working for democracy field for almost 30 years, and I think this is my second forums attending Women Peacebuilder Forum. Obviously, I learned a lot um, how hard the woman in the front line and try to navigating along the actors who are conflicting in the different sectors and in different like subjects. So commenting on what I heard from three examples from Indonesia, Philippines, and from Jacinta in Kenya, it seems like, well, at least from my narrow understandings, the space for women peace builders are still preserved and quite open for further engagements. I was like amazed all the presentation where there are like a gradual expansions and then growth. For example, like WGWC from the alternative narrative grow to be structural strengths, and then strengthening cooperation with the state institution. I think the same case that's demonstrating by Fatima in the case of Mindanao, where the coalition's buildings are very massive and then able to creating even corridor like a humanitarian corridor, which is the most needed when the conflict happenings. Like I've been experienced in Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Pakistan's conflict, but of course I'm working in democratic as space, a democracy related issue. But then again, this is something that I really appreciate is where, and then I also working in Myanmar where the secure or humanitarian corridor is even it's not opening up until right now. I think these are some things that need to be considered, need to be thinking over how actually this forum can be expanding. I mean, the Women Peace Builders Forums not only handling, not only focus on the PVE, but also can be further expanding to be, you know, building peace in the potential conflict areas that can be involving state, business, indigenous peoples that likely more massive right now. The explorations of the natural resources happening in all sectors, all corners in many countries is that increasing tensions between the indigenous peoples, the land owners, with the business sectors, and then backing up by the states, which is normally utilizing the securities forces to to chasing the people around. I think that is being like no doubt that all evidence showing the space, the civil space on the peace and the conflict resolution are likely still promising. It is different cases with the mainstream democracy advocacy sectors where I think everybody suffered. Rawan's colleagues has been mentioned. We all sufferings because of many sector, not because of funding cut, but also because of the global political dynamics that really splits the thinking, the mindset of even civil society, at least in Asia. It's very difficult to calling spade is a spade in this kind of conflicts, especially in Gaza. So I think another like submission from me that can be utilizing fooders can be taking advantage by the Women Peacebuilders Forum, especially in these forums. Also can take a leads as a pressure groups, not only handling PPE in their own countries, but also can develop more global or even at least Asian solidarity to address the issue on Gaza, the issue on conflict in Cambodia, conflict in Myanmar, conflict in Afghanistan that's likely still empty or still quiet from the interventions of the how do you call it peacemakers that really focus on the genders. Then I think women peace builders will be really needed. Why it is needed? Because many of the ambiguity in the international fora, including civil society, democracy, and human rights activists, when it's called on Gaza, I think it's very quiet, very rare. Then I think it can be expanding and can give me on. It can be providing examples to the democracy and human rights activists, mainstreamings. So it will be built a much better confidence as we are talking about peace, about security, about women's, about children's that can be expanding easily. So I don't know how much time I needed, but I can speak all in the relation between democracy, human rights, and then Women Peace Builders Forum that likely can be alternative, how do you call it, leaders in these kind of situations of the uncertainties where people doesn't know where to go. The mainstreaming human right and democracy are still trying hard to finding formula, what next step, and then what next to do. But I guess I have to highlight the last thing that I want to highlight is about cooperation with governments is serving in two sides. If you find a good government, good man, then your program will be nice. All of your initiative will be supported. But then again, at the same time, we also need to be aware. The most weakening democratic situation right now, the most weakening space that try to be grabbed by, let's say, bad guy within the government, within political party or political power is democratic institutions. So there is a time the parliaments that they should be producing, as we call as a democratic institution, is producing draconian law. Instead, supporting the effort of civil society, strengthening democracy and human rights, promoting peace or conflict resolution, by turn to be opposite sides. And then democratic process itself, the elections, legislation, judiciary, sometimes easily to be co-opted by let's say the bad governing guys, and then also political powers. So by then, I hope I can leave some kind of like appreciations with the preserve space, and then opens and could be expanding more the sectors. I think this is one of the good news, actually, if I may say, Ruby. One of the good, let's say, ambience and environments from all disparate presentation from different sectors. But I think I'm hearing three different examples of Indonesia, Philippines, and Kenya. Seems like giving a good wins and then a better hope for the futures. By that, I thank you, everyone, and then I return back to the moderators. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, Pak Icha. So we are skeptical, but we are hopeful, right? Although some of our democratic institutions betrays their own future. So thank you so much for the discussion, for the connecting the dots in the our discussion today in session 4, because we know that time is so limited. There are so many questions in the chat box. How many minutes do I still have time? The committee, how many minutes?
Yes. There's 5 more minutes, Ibu.
Okay, only 5 minutes. So maybe just take a glance of the chat box for each presenter. So please keep your comments in a very short, simple way to these questions, because 5 minutes, I think it's not enough to address all the questions, but at least you still have some big ideas of what they are want to know. Maybe starting from Kak Aya first. Kak Suraya, do you want to comment on these questions?
Yeah.
Your time is only 2 minutes.
Okay. I will answer this question about WG and WC. Yeah, there is the question for Aneyasha. Yeah, this integration of let me clarify it first. Yeah, this is the integration of gender perspective in the prevention and countering of violent extremism work in Indonesia is not only the initiative of AMAN Indonesia, but rather the result of collective sustained efforts by the Working Group on Women and PCVE over the past 7 years. WC is a coalition of civil society organization working across different issues and region. The process is grounded gender in PCVE effort is sharing approach has been developed through reflective, participatory, and collaboration engagement among GWC partner. Well, AMAN Indonesia has include player a key role because it's Ruby, one of steering committee members, and AMAN of visiting as the secretary of WGWC, and then several AMAN staff have actually support coordination and technical process for this importance empathize. But policy development was conducted through joint consultation with all WGWC partner, and advocacy work was collective carried out by the internet networking, including partner based outside of Java, many of whom brought critical local and constituent perspective into the process. So this the first question, yeah, and then first the answer question I have to answer.
Thank you, Kaya. Fatima and Jacinta, do you want to answer Ruby's question?
Yes, maybe I can go first.
Yes, please.
Yes, returnees in the case of Kenya is the people who have been recruited to go across to Somalia where they are trained in violent extremism, then they come back. And some of them, when they come back, their lives are at risk because some of them run away. So they are followed into the country. And so it's very important for us to work together, the state and non-state actors. Civil society does a big work to help them with the psychosocial and reintegration in their communities. And secondly, the other question was on civil-military coordination in all our gender sector working groups. We have the Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Defense, and also the International Peace Support Training Center represented. So we have a very healthy and robust state and non-state coordination, military and civil society. Thank you very much.
Okay, Sis Fatima, do you
Still
want
have
to
time?
add some? Yes.
Maybe a minute, inshallah. Let's try. Okay. The question: what are the main elements, enabling elements? One would be if you have local champions in the policy within the policymakers, so it's easy to have conversations, build rapport, and it's easy for them also to carry the voices of the community and the women's agenda at the parliamentary and also at the Congress and Senate. It is also important that you have a dialogue. You have a community dialogue from time to time because, again, you do not represent yourself or your organization, but you're representing the voice of, the women's voice. So it is very important that everything that is going to be presented in the policy paper from the community dialogue to the policy paper submitted to the policymakers should definitely represent the lived realities of the women, men, youth, and other, LGBTQ, if there are any, and other, and other groups. And of course, it is also very important to have representation from the women communities, that you do not go to the policymakers and you talk on their behalf. They should do the talking because they know better than we do. We just facilitate. So that's very, very important. That's an enabling environment for women to, for us to give a platform, a safe space for community women because they deserve more than it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So since we don't have much time, now it's time for me to wrap up this session 4. A few key takeaways stand out today. The first is civic space is critical for effective PVE, especially when led by women and community actors. And then the second one is local ownership, trust building, and co-creation with the states are vital for sustainable prevention. And then cross-regional lessons like those we've heard today remind us that civil society's resilience and innovation are indispensable. We hope today's dialogue will fit directly into our joint recommendations for strengthening the integration of WPS in PVE strategies, both nationally and globally. And thank you to our speakers, discussions, and all participants for this insightful exchange. Please stay with us for the next session and keep the conversation alive beyond this forum. Have a productive day ahead and terima kasih. Maraming salamat and thank you. Over to you, Mbak Neni.
Thank you, Miss Debbie, for moderating such an insightful, powerful, but we are very sad because we have a limited time. We encourage all the participants and speakers to continue the conversation and discussion through the chat box. And also thank you to all the speakers and discussant for the rich perspectives, reflection, and critical messages that will stay with us beyond this session. Esteemed guests and participants, we are now proceed to our closing panel. We will hear the synthesis of our 2 days forum with the title of the synthesis is From Lesson to Action, Regional Reflection, and Next Steps. This will be delivered by Mrs. Yunianti Kuzaifa former Commissioner of the National Commission on Violence Against Women, Komnas Perempuan, and the Executive Board Member of AMAN Indonesia. Mrs. Yuni, the screen is yours.
Hello?
Yeah.
Here, okay. Thank you,
Yes.
Bibi. So, I think this is very challenging how to synthesize the very important points and also illuminating process and also points from very ritual discussion for this 2 days process. So I would like to highlight several. I try to synthesize several points that I think this is not final document. This is possibly as to stimulate for further discussion. Okay, so I try to describe this closing panel, synthesis from lessons to actions. Next. Okay. Next, please. Yeah. Okay. So from this today's discussion. So this is the updating progress from the ground, reflecting knowledge and paradigm. From the first day, we heard about the conceptual paradigm. For instance, we get like a richful knowledge about the concept of voluntarily and involuntarily. So I think this is stimulate our further discussion. How do we analyze gender transcendental belief that behind the extremism that especially women they prefer, they hopes that they will have more transcendental equality after life. And also, how about the concept hegemonic theology that dominating by male theology, and also false hope behind the voluntaristic extremism? This is like this is voluntaristic, but this is not voluntaristic by the culture and by the theology. And also, how defining women as a perpetrator of violent extremism and its implication. For instance, I'm a bit worried the danger of masculinizing women and decreasing empathy to the women victim, especially for the deportan. Some of the women and some of women become a perpetrator, and this is the case of Indonesia. The Indonesian government, categorize them as a perpetrator, and they are not on the list to be sent back to Indonesia. And also extremism and child issues. I would like to formulate that this is another form of gradual killing of human life. How the power of violence theology, violence teaching, violence values is like another form of gradual killing. And also endless and beyond. Also this sharing show us about the endless and beyond border initiative of women peace initiators, networks. We are breaking the border to initiate peace. Next. So what is critical points of view from the discussions? This is like reflecting the gap and also cross sharpening from different countries, different contexts, different expertise. So first point also questioning about those several initiatives from Indonesia include civil society role. Yesterday raised one question about it seems like fixing or repairing the impact of extremism, especially focus to the victim-based approach, then build the system. So this is the yesterday discussion, and also further exploration of systemic prevention of PVA, correlation between reparation and prevention, and it is still, the question seems like disconnecting process from the reflection from Indonesia that the reparation itself is a foundation of prevention, non-recurrence. So this is because fulfilling the right of the victims to prevent them to be to rejailing, reprison as a representment and etc. And militarism approach in fighting new form of terrorism. This is the reminder from our sister in Palu that the role of true militaristic approach, another form of terrorism, and also in fighting future terrorism itself, because in fighting the trauma and also insecurity, and also in fighting victims, and integrating gender in the process of the radicalization is also important, because the process of yesterday, for instance, seemed like simplified as a role of women at domestic sphere. And I think we think also that integrating gender in the radicalization not only hold the role of women, but also how we also questioning about the issues of polygamy and others. Next. Okay, the WPS and PVA require several principles of elements. The first point is the commitment, responsibility, and yesterday and today we heard about generosity of the state, because state responsibility to fulfill victim rights is very important. From the experience of LPSK, institution for victim and witness protection, and also today from several institutions, and also integrated comprehensive approach of a correctional mechanism. For instance, the radicalization, that integrating theology, economy, psychosocial is very important, because we cannot using only one standard, that the radicalization only converting people to be nationalistic, not radical anymore politically, but theologically sometimes still there. So the radicalization should be comprehensive, not only theology, but also economy, psychosocial, etc. And also critical collaboration between civil society and state. This is very important to exchange important data to transparent mechanism, finding from the ground, a dialogue, collective and participatory initiative. This is very important, genuine participatory, and this is I think yesterday and today several times the meaningful participation also come up again. Women's knowledge, gender lens, and critical narratives include from theological perspective, especially also from the experience of KUPI, transitional justice principle as main pillar of deriving WPS for PVA, and also democracy, especially freedom of expression and space of dialogue from national until the village, and how important the state when the state apologized for the past human rights violation, build dialogue among victims and among victims with victims, among victims with perpetrator, and many elements of stakeholders. And also another important element, also dynamic of global extremism, need global and regional intervention. I think our sister in Kenya and also some discussion mentioned about these issues, because the current extremism not only happen at the local or national, but this is also global, and how global society responding this issue through comprehensive intervention. Next. Translating to multidimensional strategies. from this to this discussion that the law or regulation should be produced from below and genuine participatory process. This is some regulation in Indonesia. When produced by the society, they will be well maintained by the memory of the collective memory and memory of the public. And it is very important as again for the participation and inventing new methodology. So this is also very important, like RSD. This is not rapid. Sorry, this is what is the
Reflective structure dialogue.
Yeah, structural dialogue, reflective structural dialogue, not rapid, yeah, sorry, this is, I have to, yeah, okay. This is a very new methodology. This is, let's say, let's reformulate it. This equal and peaceful space to break the silence and connecting hopes. And also another initiative include revitalization of pengajian, Islamic gathering, and also village, sustainable village, peace village also by Wakit Foundation, and also I think this is show up about how we inventing new methodology and regaining recognition and legitimacy of women ulama, like the masculinizing theology for peace, deconstruct religious narrative that to deliberate the more pluralistic and non-violence theology. Listening from below, from public and domestic. This is not only at the public sphere, but also how the peace also should be from domestic, and how we bring the power of regaining identity, self and social acceptability, inclusive, also multi-generational or multi-ages. Several times we talk about the role of the youth, and also how in involvement of the youth, not marginalizing the all human rights defender, women human rights defender, all ulama, because the power of movement is connecting multi-generational approach, like what we have been doing so far, and also financial and livelihood security and social acceptability is also very important to prevent extremism, institutionalization of knowledge and awareness through sustainable peace, like a community education, maintaining multi-generational wisdom, peace and ecology, even from the village, where this is very important, because sometimes the wisdom, the knowledge, women's knowledge transmitted from one generation to another generation. So we still have our local identity, but doing with the wider context. Next. The challenge of integrating WPS. Different perception, meaning, and approach of security and peace. For instance, the masculine apparatus perception, it's different from the civil society perspective. And we heard yesterday that sometimes the dialogue initiated by civil society banned by the government or by the military apparatus. This is hindering the process of peace, and limited public memorialization of the past and also tragedy, like forgetting dark history. This is an common perception. It's like inviting re-traumatization. So I think this is also another our homework, that how memorialization of the past, this is part of the prevention for the future tragedy, especially conflict and extremism. And also digital issues not only as a challenge, but also as a gate of the initiative, how the penetration of extremism through social media beyond border penetration. And also this is another issues of right to be forgotten, because when the conflict, locked by digital and social media, this is also sometimes inviting trauma and also another conflict and difficult for the peace process. And the complexity of the human security, this is also important, not only mainstream or traditional security, but also human security. So we have to discuss. Sometimes the government happy to use human security to what do you guys to stimulate people to concentrate to the human security than mainstream security. So people not talking, not questioning about the militarism, for instance, like what happening in Indonesia after we have like a WPS, but we also have conflict, law on conflict, but not touching about the militarism, but only social conflict. The rising inclination of authoritarianism and militarism, then also sometimes this is the fading of WPS. This is the challenge, and I think faced by several countries, especially at the region. Next. And what is the role of women's movement from these two discussions? We are the wall breakers, initiator of peace, regardless of their background, the wound, the dark, memory. But we have bravery to be the initiator of peace, and also we become the connectors between state, civil society, and the victim, using intersectionality and inclusive approach. Sister from Philippines show us about even the cover of the report or the book, including women or someone on the wheelchair. This is like a symbolic inclusive approach that even we know that we need deeper inclusiveness, but this is as a recognition. Symbolic recognition is also a very important part of the inclusive approach. And extracting knowledge and inventing contextual methodology and approach, like women-friendly through cultural theology, fatwa based on human rights and women experience, and formulating sustainable prevention and institutionalizing state commitment. This is very important, as also from Kenya experience through national and also sub-regional action plan of PVA, and also maintain and negotiating civic space and interpreting genuine peace. This is very important because peace requiring the civic space as a watchdog, as a control, as a balance for the healthy state. And widening struggle space from local to global. I think sister from Kenya and also WGWC also sharing, remind about the connectivity between local, global, and global to local. Next. Envisioning the future of WPS and human rights. So because we are not only talking about the current situation, but also how we predict the future situation and what is the further action. So what is the remaining gap and reminding norms? Justice and state impunity. I think several times mentioned by the speakers, and we have to remember that also genesis of WPS was lack of justice, because the compared to transitional justice concept or principle that truth, reparation, justice, guarantee of non-recurrence is very important. Sometimes WPS not really touching the issue of justice. The territorialization of protection, this is also challenging because currently than protecting human being happen, especially with the mobility of terrorism, we stateless there, etc., etc. And also perception of failure of UN mechanism to respond several issues. For instance, Palestine. The issue is Palestine is like a dividing movements, and also stimulating the solidarity, hardliners, and weakening trust to human rights mechanisms. So I think this is also important to be considered. And also, usually when we talk about WPS on the UNSR 1325, but we also have SDGs. Since 30 years ago, SDGs has one of the concentration also talking about peace, and also no, this is BPFA, and also this SDGs almost end 3 more years. This is also talking about women, peace and security, and also CEDAW through General Recommendation 30 and also several general recommendation. We need to always amplify this norm, because we don't want ratify, I call skeleton, only limited element integrating those instruments, because we only focus, we ratify CEDAW, but only limited people knowing about that CEDAW also talking about conflict. And also normalizing impunity and banality. This is also things or norm or values that we have to remember when we talk about this. Next. Urgency and contextualization of WPS to the region, especially ASEAN. In Asian context, Southeast Asian, we have several similarities of history, her story of security and conflict. Some of us have similarity, former colonized countries. We are developing countries, experiencing conflict and also increasing militarism. Flow of ideological connectivity through migration and mobility. Malaysia to Indonesia, Philippines, Indonesia. If we go to Poso, under table marriage happened between Bima, South Philippines, Poso. So this is migration marriage, and how extremism. Also in even Singapore to Indonesia, former migrant workers, because they feel as a minority, as a citizenship, as a women, so they want to show they minority, showing their power through religious, and those religiosity is extremist theology or religiosity. And in ASEAN, also some potential conflicts like territorial issues, house of rumah ibadah, of worship, and also increasing militarism, increasing extremism, formalizing fundamentalism ideology, and this is like a decision maker. Those fundamentalist leaders become decision makers outside the state to control public life, especially through cultural intervention, and also criminalizing progressive women's movement, like what happening with Sister in Islam, that the Islamic, some of Islamic, let's say, group actors, hindering or asking Sister in Islam not using Islam anymore. And also impunity and denial of the dark history or state violence that I already mentioned before. Okay, and this is next, the last part of my of the recommendation from this process. WPS concept and its derivation should be inherently demanding justice and against impunity, because this is the root of extremism. They questioning about the justice, not only at local, national, but also global justice. So sometimes same analyze, but different intervention and different principle and also different ideology. So same concern. Okay, strengthening UN and regional human rights mechanism. So we need to stimulate increasing sense of urgency in the UN of PVA. Because if we see at the website of Office of High Commission, sometimes the UN saying, oh, this is the failure of the state to define what is terrorism, etc., etc. But I think, and also some of donors decreasing support to the issues of PVA. So I think we have to remind them, and also how they have to be sensitive to respond new form of conflicts, monitoring the implementation of the of its instrument, including WPS, integrating human rights to resolve PVA. For instance, about stateless. So even we disagree with the or we really condemn violent extremism, but as a human rights activist, we also have to thinking about stateless and optimize the role of state actors and non-state actors. Sister from Philippines reminded about the role of the corporate and to prevent new form of silent injustice. As a main root of extremism, including the natural resources conflict, climate justice, and etc. Build island of coherence. This is the new concept that we have to be connected each other among civil society, women's movement, global and local, for genuine collaboration and multi-layers engagement to maintain peace, and also reparation of victims and invisible victims. For instance, how we have to touch to embrace also the orphaned, since his father or their father killed and imprisoned, and also disability caused by terrorism. And also, I think we need research and study of new form of conflict extremism, policy impact review, for instance, include corrective mechanism. Even we have initiative, community-based reintegration and deradicalization and corrective mechanism. So I think we have to have like evaluation review, community-based review of the role of women, civil society, because sometimes we do a lot of things, long list, but whether the women as well as from the grassroots, part of thinking that this circle part of them and really, like a sustainable engagement and what do they hopes, etc., etc. And also invisible gender issues among victims, like also survivor, also defender, perpetrator at the border, and how those stateless condition, etc. I think we need many issues that we can do further research. So the movement always based on the dynamic finding, dynamic point of view from below, from the ground. And the last one, the centering or reduce the power of authority of masculine religious leaders through women leadership, critical thinking, and theology of peace, justice, and love. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Yunianti, for capturing the key insights and pathway forward, also the recommendation with such clarity and depth. And ladies and gentlemen, as we reach the end of Women Peacebuilders Forum 2025, we extend our sincere appreciation to all the speakers, discussant, moderators, and participants, and also guests, as well as to our colleagues on the organizing committee for making this forum possible. Ladies and gentlemen, your voice and knowledge and commitment have been essential to this meaningful gathering. And before we close, we kindly invite all the participants to complete the conference post survey. Please find the link on the chat box, and we will send the materials and e-certificate to participants joining the 2 days forum and completing the post survey. Ladies and gentlemen, we also encourage you to share your thoughts and feeling for this 2 days forum through the chat box and also in the message in the post survey. Now we would like to proceed a group photos, and we would like to document these meaningful and also beautiful moments together in a virtual group photo. I would like to invite my colleague in the organizing committee to document our moments, and I will count on 3. You may please open your camera if you are comfortable. Yeah, I see some colleagues and participants opening the camera. We'll wait for several. Yeah. So we are now taking the picture together. Please give your smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Next screen. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Okay. The third. 1, 2, 3. And the fourth. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Beautiful. Okay, once again, thank you for your participations, and we hope the conversation sparked here today and yesterday will continue to grow into our collaboration that advance peace, inclusion, and justice in your respective communities. Thank you very much. Thank you all, and see you again in the future forum. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. Wow, so beautiful. We can say hi.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.